Slips and trips are responsible for more than 1/3 of all major injuries and 1/5 of all over 3-day injuries to employees. Slips and trips are the single most common cause of major injuries at work, occurring in most workplaces, and cause over 9,000 employees each year to suffer a serious injury. On average, there is a slip or trip accident every 3 minutes, and 95% of major slips result in broken bones. To understand the pain and suffering that can result from a slip or trip at work, Richard will describe his life-changing accident.
I worked as a technical instructor in a large hospital. One autumn morning, as I was entering the main hospital, I slipped on a pile of decomposing leaves on the concrete steps. I'd noticed that there were some fresh leaves on top of the decomposing ones, which indicated to me that they'd been there for some time. I fell heavily on my right knee. I went home, but I returned to work the next day, even though my knee was still very swollen, was really painful and was still bleeding. I was sent to get it checked, and the x-ray showed that I had damaged the kneecap. I was still in pain 3 months later, and I was told that I'd have to have surgery. Apparently, the leaves were supposed to have been cleared away daily, but due to staff shortages, this hadn't been done. A few years later, I slipped again. This time it was on an unmarked, wet floor. It was snowing outside, and as I entered the building, I went straight to my office. I took my boots off and put my work shoes on. In the meantime, unbeknown to me, somebody had mopped the corridor floor without drying it or putting up any barriers or warning signs. I slipped over, and as I slipped, I broke my right ankle and contorted my foot. I was put into plaster for 6 weeks, but after 3 weeks, I was taken out of it because my foot was so badly contorted. Over the next few years, I had more than 20 operations to try to save the foot, but eventually I was told that I had dystonia caused by the accident, and amputation was the only answer because I'd lost all sense of feeling in my toes and they'd started to turn black. So, some 5 years after my accident, my leg was amputated. The week after my accident, the unit had non-slip floors fitted. As you can imagine, these easily avoidable accidents have had a horrendous effect on my life. Before the first accident, I was a young, fit 21-year-old. I'd only just got married. I carried on working up until the second accident. I enjoyed most sports and jogging. But after that, I was unable to do any of these activities, and now I spend most of my time in a wheelchair. I've received compensation, but I lost my job, and I'll never work again because of ongoing problems. My wife lost her business because she has to care for me. No amount of money can compensate or prepare you for what happened to me.
Although Richard's accident did not occur in one of our buildings, clearly we must do all we can to prevent our workmates, visitors, or members of the public from slipping or tripping whilst at Mercedes-Benz. This DVD will explain the main causes of slips and trips in the workplace and demonstrate what practical actions you can take to reduce the likelihood of them taking place. This programme will cover the importance of good standards of housekeeping, how human factors influence slips and trips, the impact environmental factors can have in creating hazards, the importance of reporting potential hazards. There will be a short written exercise at the end to check your understanding. The majority of slips occur in wet or contaminated conditions, and most trips are due to poor housekeeping. Now, whether the responsibility for cleaning the floors has been contracted out or is undertaken in-house, the principles remain the same. All cleaning should be undertaken to a standard and schedule suitable for your workplace. If you feel that the performance of the cleaning for your workplace is below standard, then you must report this to your line manager. Spillages can often create slip hazards. If you create a spill, you should rectify it yourself, preferably by soaking it up with an absorbent material. If you come across a spill created by someone else, you should still deal with it. You should not turn the other cheek and leave it to someone else. Likewise, if you notice a machine or some product leaking, effect a temporary fix and then report it to the relevant person or department. Walkways and traffic routes must always be kept free from obstructions. You should never leave objects, such as boxes or rubbish, in places where people will walk. Obstructions are the single biggest cause of accidents involving tripping or falling over, and many people have suffered serious injuries, such as broken bones, as a result. Human behaviour is often a factor in the underlying causes of slips and trips in the workplace. For example, how many of you have seen an electrical cable from an extension lead stretched across a walkway? If there is no alternative, and it is for a short time only, then you should at least tape it down with hazard tape. If you can mark its position, then so much the better. Due to the vast amount of product packaging in the ELC, it has the potential to be slippery. All strapping, shrink wrapping and empty pallets must be disposed of immediately and not left for someone to slip on or trip over. Plenty of waste bins are provided, so there's really no excuse for anyone not to clean up after themselves. Do not stand on chairs or tables. Always use proper access equipment when reaching for items on high shelves, or ask a colleague to help. To further reduce the likelihood of an accident, office staff must not use a route through a workshop or the ELC as a shortcut to other areas of the site. To help prevent slipping, it is company policy in the ELC to wear safety footwear with anti-slip soles in all areas outside the green path. When working in that warehouse, you must comply with these requirements at all times.